Ay, ay, ay. Am I live on YouTube now as well? I am live on YouTube. Sweet. But the name of this... But the video... Name of that is annoying. Bear with. Bear with. Not gaming. Politics. Politics and news. I'm really gonna make it like a thumbnail. I think I have one though, right? Yes. There we go. So I'm also live on YouTube now. And Twitch as well. Yeah, also live on Twitch. Close this. But my freaking chat is non-existent. Write in chat to see if it comes up. It does come up. YouTube. Do the messages disappear? Because that'll be annoying if they just... Oh, they do. Do the messages disappear? YouTube chat. YouTube chat shows up as well. Nice, nice. Something I really need to get though is probably a better mic. That's the next mission. Anyway, today or tonight actually, it's like 10 o'clock. Need to get my drink as well. Be right back. So today, gonna be learning about more stuff in the news. The news. And stats. What is stats? Nah, we don't care about stats. You're pretty limited on docs though when it comes to multi-streaming. Anyway, whatever. Move this over here because I need this on this side. Doesn't feel comfortable there. So, in what I believe to be Keir Starmer's most recent speech on his immigration thing in the House of Commons, he made a weird reference, sort of saying. I haven't seen it yet, so I guess we could just watch it and
Labour is pledging to
find
reduce net migration, criticising past Conservative policies, but provides no detailed targets.
Today we publish a white paper on immigration, a strategy absolutely central to my plan for change that will finally take back control of our borders and close the book on a squalid chapter for our politics, our economy and our country. Between 2019 and 2023, even as they were going round our country, telling people with a straight face that they would get immigration down, net migration quadrupled. until in 2023 it reached nearly 1 million. That's about the population of Birmingham, our second largest city. That's not control, it's chaos. A one-nation experiment in open borders, conducted on a country that voted for control. Well, no more. Today, this Labour government is shutting down the lab. The experiment is over. We will deliver what you've asked for time and again, and we will take back control of our borders. I'm doing this because it is right, because it is fair, and because it is what I believe in. Now, in a diverse nation like ours, and I celebrate that, these rules become even more important. Without them, we risk becoming an island of strangers, not a nation that walks forward together. So when you have an immigration system that seems almost designed to permit abuse, that encourages some businesses to bring in lower paid workers rather than invest in our young people, or simply one that is sold by politicians to the British people on an entirely false premise, then you're not championing growth, you're not championing justice, or however else people defend the status quo. You're actually contributing to the forces that are slowly pulling our country apart.
One part in that speech that many jumped on. Obviously, there's many parts that we will talk about, but one part and one line sounded very similar to a famous speech in British political history. And our friends over at Navarra Media actually posted this very quickly after Starmer did this speech.
We risk becoming an island of strangers, not a nation that walks forward together.
They found themselves made strangers in their own country.
Yes, that is obviously the famous Rivers of Blood speech by Enoch Powell. I believe, was it 1967 or 1960?
Also, I think he was Hitler's best man at his wedding.
68. Just to put into
This goes to show like
very quickly
where we're actually going in this country for like politics and well, basically the globe, really, because like if you think about it, the way the globe is actually going now is like it's pretty far right, and it's gonna get really, really like authoritarian and like in terms of what you can say, mostly on the left, I imagine. Like it's gonna be pretty restrictive. Because that when we usually go down this road, that's usually what happens.
Obviously, I'm sure everyone here knows the Rivers of Blood speech, but for anyone who doesn't,
because they'll shut you down for like going against them.
It was at a time when the government was about to send a bill, and it was going to stop people getting discriminated against for housing, for employment, and this was a moment in British political history that is now often quoted every other week and every other day, with the Overton window that we're living in now and the side of it that we're living in now. And I was just browsing on the Guardian News live feed about all the updates throughout the day while the Keir Starmer speech was playing, and I saw that John McDonnell actually posted that he said this is the language of Enoch Powell. So, you know, when sometimes people on the left can be, you know, I think we can be sometimes a little bit dramatic, right? I think that's all sides are guilty of this, but you've got John McDonnell, you know, the former Labour MP who's still suspended from the Labour Party, saying this is the words of Enoch Powell. Noffel, that is a lot of information. What are your kind of just initial thoughts? We've got the video, we've got the new restrictions and changes, and then we'll go into some more specifics.
So obviously we can look at this in two different spheres. One of them is obviously the speech and the language that Starmer is using. The second thing is to look at the economic side of this. It's really rich for Starmer to say that this isn't political and that this is not about talking about the demographics, about voter change, but it quite inherently is, because Rupert Lowe, not long after Starmer tweeted the language restrictions out, said that he claims the online right have shifted the Overton window, and there's more to do. So whether Starmer likes it or not, whether he can fool people or not, Reform UK are being emboldened from this, and they are convincing people that Labour are simply scared, and they're just doing this to appease to their voters. So that's
Yeah, we saw this with the Democrats in the US, and it's playing out in the UK now. The center the center right, I would say, tries to appeal to the far right and the far right voters who are just like angry, and they point at anger in one direction, which is immigration, because they don't know who to blame. So it's probably they're gonna lose more votes. They're gonna lose more votes, Labour is, because the far right does not want Labour, it wants reform. And that's the issue.
one aspect.
If they try to appeal to that, they'll just lose.
The second aspect to look at this is from the economic side, which is whether, and it is true that most of the UK population want immigration down, whether or not we think that's a good thing, you still would need immigration as an interim period if you are to skill up UK workers, because it can't happen overnight.
Yeah.
You cannot reform the care sector while still giving out private contracts. You cannot reform the care sector while still offering them low pay. And you certainly can't skill up British workers if you're not investing in the human capital to do that. So whether you want to see net migration up or down, let's say you want to see it down.
So this is just a theory, or like my thoughts on it. What will happen is if they stop like immigration, like migrant workers from coming over here to work with like visas and stuff like that, if they make it really, really hard for them to get into the country to work, then what will happen is you'll have a case of, since these companies who were employing these migrant workers, you'll have a scenario where they just won't employ British people because they have to pay them more than the migrant workers. So what'll happen is the companies will either move to a different country to get more capital, or they'll just completely just like go bust because they won't be able to afford paying like minimum wage to British people, and they'll refuse to do so. And there's like the third option, which is like I suppose, which will be like really short-staffed, horrible working conditions, and people will have really heavy workloads. That's the thing that's probably going to happen.
Cannot simply end immigration in the way Starmer is talking about, albeit at a very low number, which is estimated from these policies, and expect that we will somehow improve our health service, because you're still going to be shilling out a ton of money into places it shouldn't be.
And bear in mind, like, the people who do come over here to work actually put money back into the country, so the NHS will suffer even more, putting in even more like burden, an even heavier burden on the taxpayer as is. That's what will happen. It won't become easy. It won't become easier for your average British citizen. It'll just get harder and harder, because it'll mean companies will be like more short staffed because they won't be able to hire the low paid immigrant workers. Which is a good thing and a bad thing, because then it exposes the like corrupt businesses who do run on this and don't give decent, fair wages.
What frustrates me about all of this is the numbers game. And obviously it's weaponized by the right, and now obviously Keir Starmer, who is the new right, they're playing into this game too. For me, it's not about getting the numbers down. This isn't, for me, obviously about reducing immigration. That shouldn't be the motivation about any of this. It's concerning the amount of immigration that we have to rely on, because that's an unstable source of human capital in many ways.
Yep.
Because there is a global shortage of workers in lots of different areas, right? We have medical workers, there's a global shortage of those, and lots of other different
Oh yeah,
skilled workers. and
the NHS and just like care workers, people who like care for old people, mainly immigrants. So that will be a hit to like the care sector. That's gonna struggle as well, because like there was an old guy who used to live next to me, and he had like people who were like Somalian, and their English was not the best, but like they would have to now do this English level, A level, I think it is, and they would have to pass that, and then I think they have to be 10 in the country for 10 years.
Where firstly taking people from
The
their
carbonation
country
in this
who,
coke is killing
are
me.
causing shortages there, and the motivation for me shouldn't be about reducing the numbers, but it should be about skilling up and obviously helping people in the UK. But even if we threw every resource that we had in terms of, you know, making sure everybody had all the money, all the resources, all the skills, all the training that they had to, you know, thrive and work and earn good money and have good housing, the reality is we still wouldn't have enough people, and we're always going to have to rely on immigration to some extent. Our birth rate is
This
not
is
gonna
like
go
a
back to
20
replacement. Like I think it was
20
Finland
year
that had
project.
the only successful actual push with this.
20,
and they
15
managed
years.
to push the birth rate up more than any other country has, but still, I believe, and
To
anyone
fill that gap in the work sector.
in the comments correct me if I'm wrong, they're still not back at replacement rate. They just had the best gains, so to speak. But again, this ties into this like infinite, you know, growth system that we're in, right? It always comes back essentially to capitalism. And we have an aging population. We have a crappy economy. And I feel like if Labour wanted to do this, they could go down the path of, you know, we need to skill up people, we need to invest in people, we need to invest in communities, we need to invest in education. But tied to the rhetoric of everything else that's come with this Labour government and Keir Starmer, tied to, you know, the close quote, it's not an exact quote, but the close quote to Enoch Powell, I just I don't even know what to almost like say anymore. I don't know where to go with this. You know, we
Oh
keep
damn.
saying
We on auto quality? Why is it going to that? We want 1080p, please.
that they've moved the Overton window. They are essentially opening the gates to the right because why would you vote for Labour, right? They've essentially stolen a couple of Tory policies here with the extension to how long it takes to get indefinitely to remain, and then you know they're essentially buying into the reform policy of deporting all foreign criminals. Now they didn't say they're going to deport all.
Like I said before, we saw this with the Democrats. They tried to run on right-wing policies with like immigration, didn't work out. Why would you vote for the pretend right when you have the proper right to vote for? In our case, reform. You have the people who are parading themselves as someone who's like anti-immigration, but they're actually not. They're just trying to pander to the masses and the right-wing voters. It's not going to work. Everybody sees it coming. The local elections prove this in the direction it's heading. So it's just going to keep heading in that direction unless Labour becomes like a center-left or even a center party at that, and just go on like liberal or like left-leaning politics. They would probably do better because people would be like, they need more empathy instead of just trying to do these right-wing moves that are just gonna end up like losing them more votes. No one's gonna like say, oh, Labour's like tough on immigrants now, I'm gonna vote Labour. No one's gonna say that. Nobody at all.
Criminals, but they're changing the rules around that. They're reducing it. You would just vote for these parties, wouldn't you, if you wanted this? So Labour are offering nothing. They're moving the Overton window. They're normalizing this. They're invoking the language of one of the most far-right, racist, inflammatory speeches in all of British political history. But for what? They're not gaining anything. They're not gaining any support. And you know, Nigel Farage tweeted out today, 600 people have come on boats today. One of them might be an Iranian terrorist, is what he said. And you know what? If
We got that
Starmer tweeted
video
the
in a
same thing
minute.
out tomorrow,
Actually, you know
surprise
what?
me. If you told me
We'll go to it. To the video, he's like referencing right now. This is the video he's referencing right now about like Nigel Farage saying that about the Iranian terrorist. Oh my god, 720p? What are you doing, parliamentary?
Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Home Secretary will be aware that 5 years ago I warned that if we didn't leave the ECHR and deport immediately those that arrived in Dover via small boats, that there would be an invasion. And sure enough, I was right. Today, a further 600 young men already today have been processed through Dover. Perhaps the odd Iranian terrorist among them. Who knows?
How do you know? How do you know?
Does the Home Secretary accept that their policy...
Like, he's labeling people as that. That's the thing. He's instantly painting people like this in a bad image, and this has an effect on his voter base, and they will repeat this. So anytime they'll be like, "Oh, Iranian, you must be a terrorist." This is his way of like shifting the opinion and how he gets people to be received.
Of Smash the Gangs is a complete and total failure, and if that's the case, why should we believe anything else they said?
Well, to the honourable member, no one should be making these dangerous boat crossings. They undermine our border security and they put lives at risk. Criminal gangs who are organising these dangerous boats are making a fortune, profiting from these dangerous boat crossings. And that's why we need counter-terrorism style powers to be able to go after the gangs. That is the opportunity for him and his party to vote for those counter-terrorism powers tonight so that we...
The thing is, with the way she's talking here, we're getting off topic on like the other video, but the thing is, the way she's actually talking when she mentions criminal gangs in these countries shipping people over, why are people coming over? Is the question you have to ask yourself. The reason people coming over is because their country sucks and there's no future for them there. So instead of trying to stop them, why not help their country develop into a country that can prosper and actually provide a working class with like a living? Just help that out. But you can't even do that with your own country. So how are you going to do that? Your only answer is to put the fucking Gestapo at the border to stop people and just detain them because their interest is self-interest in capital. And the big companies, they don't care about like immigration. This is nothing to them. That's like a dot on the radar. They're picking it up, but they don't care. It's what they care about is just how they're perceived. And it's so stupid.
Criminal gangs who are organising these dangerous boats are making a fortune, profiting from these dangerous boat crossings. And that's why we need counter-terrorism style powers to be able to go after the gangs. That is the opportunity for him and his party to vote for those counter-terrorism powers tonight so that we can strengthen our border security. Previously, he and his party voted against those counter-terrorism powers.
That's stupid. Jim from Syria is not coming over because he wants to experience the British weather. You know, it's not the case. He's coming over here for a reason, because life over there sucks and it's shit. I'm not saying this is the case for all Syrians, but the people who come over on boats want a future. And that gives them the right to apply for asylum. That's the truth.
That was a Starmer tweet.
Because they're fleeing hardship and life is like unlivable over there.
Wouldn't surprise me anymore. I don't know where to go with this, but what are your thoughts?
I think what's particularly interesting to me as well is not just the proximity towards using language now, right? We're talking about strangers in your own country, but it's
That's
also
dangerous
the
waiting.
denial Starmer has, and quite broadly.
That's like that's so dangerous because it's dividing the population even further. They don't need dividing further. you're setting a wedge between like just people. It's people aren't just seeing them as other people, they're seeing them as migrants. And this is going to be the case for people who are just coming over here on boats. This will apply to like people who like their parents immigrated over here, and just because they're like the color of their skin is different, they're going to be perceived as an immigrant, and or like Farage says, an Iranian terrorist, which is very, very dangerous and unsettling to say, but that's the direction this is going.
The Labour Party, that this is not to appease anyone, this is not a shift to the right at all. This is what Labour is now, and this is what Labour will be until the next election. And I think that particularly is quite scary, because we're seeing a Labour Party that,
I mean, the Labour Party stood with Israel as they commit genocide, so I don't expect anything different from Labour. I don't expect them to be nice or like have any moral causes or any understanding about just life in general. All they care about is lining their pockets and their investors, getting them policed.
that's in limbo. We're not seeing one that's dedicated on premises of what they used to be, or necessarily representing working people. No matter how Starmer can say it, and no matter what we personally think, Reform have got the upper hand here. They are controlling the narrative,
100%.
but the far right have got the access to shift the political debate further to the right. You can say that's not the case, but the truth is, liberalism does in some cases lead to the early stages of populist right-wing governments. And what I was saying earlier,
Just call it what it is, man.
particularly scary
Fascism.
because
Call
if
it
we
what
look
it
a
is.
couple years later down the line, Reform is still estimated to gain seats. Of course, if they push for even more radical ideas, let's say there's more splintering between Farage and Rupert Lowe, Labour's just going to go straight to Reform and go straight to their policies. And I think that's the most dangerous place we're at. It's not Reform. Reform are quite predictable. It's actually Labour that are very dangerous right now. And we don't know where they're going to push the political debate further, because we don't simply know how Reform are going to respond to this. And even on the backdrop of the local election, I think Reform have surprised themselves in some way of how well they've also done. So Labour are quite frankly emboldening them. I'm sure Farage is laughing, quite frankly, behind the scenes of how easily he's been able to do this. And I think it is going to grow to look at people like going to grow where the UK population is looking at Starmer and they're thinking, we really do have a spineless leader. I want someone that's a strongman. And unfortunately, this is the era of strongman politics.
Yes,
Farage
it is.
cozies up to Trump. He likes his tactics, and simply people are going to go to Reform.
Yeah, I think from what I can guess here, this is my theory on like
Hello,
what is
Grand.
exactly going through their mind.
How are you today?
It seems to
Or
me
tonight?
like they're trying to eliminate possible headlines which are currently being weaponized. We all know the headlines of a few weeks ago, was it like a month ago? Asylum seeker gets to stay in the country. He was a criminal for like not liking chicken nuggets. Again, the story was bullshit. Look into it. I'm not even going to go into it, but it was bullshit. There's all these types of headlines every week, every other day. The Telegraph is publishing. The Telegraph keep a really close eye on this, but other ones do it too, about all these like ridiculous stories of how a criminal can stay in the country. There's no point even going into the facts and figures of how many people are successful in these appeals, because it's actually very little. But these are causing headlines. So they're changing or wanting to change how Article 8, the right to family life, I think the correct line is for Article 8 in the ECHR. They're trying to change how that's applied in the UK. That gets rid of those.
About what we
headlines.
discussed
When it
last stream
comes
about
to obviously being able to just deport
not voting and stuff like that. Terms of like parties and like none of them. Is that what you're referencing? Or talking about, I should say.
anyone else. They're obviously making sure that if there can't possibly be a headline where there is a person in the country who may commit a very minor sexual offense in any way. It could be,
yeah, like no, I'm still like set on like voting for the Green Party.
I don't know, flashing, and then that person can now be deported under these rules.
Because I still want to vote for that and like
that's
see change.
What they're trying to do with these changes. And when it comes to just simply getting the numbers down, as you mentioned, it's just
because I don't know if you were like the engagement is wasting energy. Yeah, I don't know if you like saw what Keir Starmer said about
I
like
think it's just
the
a terrible direction to
immigration stuff like that.
put the economy.
But this is
in,
like a
because
breakdown of
essentially,
it.
You can try and get the numbers down all you want, but unless you fix the root issue of why we need this immigration, why we rely on it so much, you're just only going to harm us. And all these changes and all these revisions, it just seems like they're trying to eliminate headlines instead of like making them for themselves, because they know that there's basically no opportunity here for them. They can't make any good news, so they're just trying to eliminate any bad news against them. And I feel like their mindset is, oh, if we just become more right wing, we can defeat the far right, and then it's like it pays itself off, right? It's worth it. It's a sacrifice that we have to make. But what's the country going to look like in 5 years if this does actually become genuinely the new norm? Because this is, in many ways, you know, hard right policy.
That's true, but if we can get the right people in, then system can change. Because like if the system keeps going in the direction it's currently going, then it's only going to get worse. If people don't try and like come together and form like a group to change it, then it's not going to change.
Is that the Tories would absolutely love and endorse.
Change takes a movement, and if you want to be part of a movement, you have to like take a stand. If you just stand by and just watch from the sidelines, then the movement will not be strong enough.
They're gonna attack them, right, and be like, "Oh, it doesn't go far enough." But in the background, they'd be eating this shit up. If this was Kemi Badenoch's new policy, everybody in her party would be probably very happy with her. And what is the country going to
take this over to 30?
When this is just the new norm, where we are harming ourselves constantly, which we already have with Brexit. We're harming ourselves with this, and it's just now normal. Like we're solidly in the hard right part of the Overton window.
Like I'm a socialist, so like my view on politics is completely different to the current system we have. And the only time we came close to getting a socialist government was Jeremy Corbyn. And that failed. And so instead of just sitting back and saying, like, it's never going to happen, you just have to keep pushing forward.
And I just don't see a way back from it, to be honest.
Well, that's the irony, and one of the things I think Starmer was talking about, which is community. And community is such a big topic for a lot of people over, the last decade plus of austerity. They feel like there is no community. They feel like all you have is individualism. People are concerned with their own lives, and people aren't bridging gaps.
Things you will not be able to change. Voting for the right party will change that.
Clubs, the idea of having enough,
in our country,
financial capability to go out and do things with friends and family, working overtime, those sort of things, austerity cuts which damage your public services that you use. Those are all results of those are all things which cause community to shrink. And when we're looking at the future and we're creating an environment in which we're saying England should not be home to people who can't speak English, you're amplifying the community issue of looking inwards within your own community to see who deserves to be here.
What's up, guy? What is up?
Do you deserve to be here?
You say it's like a mantra, not because it's linked to possible outcome.
I think that premise is
no. The thing is, right?
Worrying.
Like I said earlier, if you want to be part of a political movement and change, you have to be part of the political movement to provide that change. If you sit back, say there's a coffee mug on the table, right? There's a coffee mug on your table. If you sit there, you want to drink the coffee, but you don't pick up the coffee is not gonna like come to you, and that nothing's gonna change. The coffee mug is just gonna sit on the table if you just leave it there. You have to set things in motion to achieve an outcome. If you don't try to achieve a different outcome, then can it be tea? Yes, tea. It'll be tea. The tea on the table, if you don't try to get the tea stays on the table. Nothing changes. But if you grab the T, you can change it. See, it's the movement. That's how politics and like voting works. If you get enough movement behind something, you can change the position of things. You keep the weird stuff in the system, whoever wins. That's why you have to, when you vote in the party that you voted for, you pressure them. And when you pressure them for change in the current system. If you vote for Labour reform or the Conservatives, and maybe the Liberal Democrats, because they're pretty much capitalist as well. If you vote for those four parties, nothing's going to change. Worst things that's my view. I mean, like that's your view. I'm not going to debate you on it. If you don't want to vote, like I'm set on voting because that's what I believe, as I just explained about like making a movement and achieving an outcome. If you stay in one position, nothing's going to happen.
We see in the news that is related to immigration, it's always black and brown. It's always people from the Middle East. When we talk about people not speaking English, it's usually those from the Middle East. And it has contributed to this community policing thing where you're looking at people of different races and you are assuming that they don't deserve to be here. So I think if you want a community back, if you want a society in which you feel like your local neighborhoods are thriving, we need to cut out American businesses buying up places on your high street, bring back the ability for people to go back and build their own businesses. You need to bring back funding to councils, which will allow for that sort of integration where people can bridge those sort of gaps. I think it's
where
just
is my
ironic,
Streamlabs?
Economically even speaking, that anyone thinks that this sort of policy will enrich their local communities. It won't. I've grown up in multicultural areas. I've grown up with people that can't speak English, and we've gotten along fine, actually, because we're not constantly policing each other. And you know, as things get worse, I think that it's going to become a hostile environment for everyone.
Yeah, one topic that
Yeah,
came up
it will
when
get
Trump first came
become
in
a
was
hostile
about
environment for
him
everybody.
trying to end birthright citizenship, and the first pushback was all the researchers, all the academics, all the experts on this topic who said, no, like we have been studying like this for years,
I
and
need this
actually
to be a
giving
black
people
box.
birthright citizenship, and it's not necessarily what I'm advocating for,
Much
but
better.
I'll get to the point, is that it makes people feel like that they belong, that it actually helps integration, it helps people fitting into the community, feeling American, because they have that right from birth. And this idea as well of extending the right to claim citizenship or whatever it is up to around 10 years with
Always
some
show
exceptions.
messages.
It's just going to prolong that period.
I'm just
and it ties into, you know, Trump
messing with my chat right now, so I can't see
not
the
same
stream.
thing, but if you have to wait longer to feel like they're British and feel like they have that security and feel like they have that citizenship,
font size,
it's going
take
to
it
harm
down.
integration. It's going to harm people feeling safe and secure in this country.
Save changes.
Because obviously as well, look what Trump's also done, right? He's got rid of, literally with a swipe of a pen, people who were here on certain types of special visas, and they were in the country, and some of them were just, you know, months, if not years away from getting citizenship. And he, with a swipe of a pen, he's just cancelled their visas. And, you know, we could have a period of time where reform come into power and do something similar because of this extension. Because there are people in this country now who would have qualified for citizenship if they change these rules.
Oh, that's annoying.
That will have to now wait longer. And on top of that, these visa changes, if you have to wait, you know, however many extra years in the country to get your citizenship, then the visa cost alone. So I said earlier, you know, personal story, it's personal to somebody else. I used to work with a woman at a charity that I used to work for. She's South African. She has 3 children. Her husband, her and her husband moved here. He's a skilled worker. He works in finance.
Yeah, you would get accused of treason, but if you do it in a political movement, I think it could be possible. Like, if there was a vote, but then again, the monarchy has a complete control over the Houses of Parliament. The Houses of Parliament are under the monarchy. Like, I don't really care about the monarchy. I would like it if they didn't have the power they have. and they weren't so like able to control everything, I think the monarchy should not have that much power. They shouldn't have any power at all, really, to be honest with you. They should just be, I don't know, like a symbol of England. Like, they should just be there as like a poster boy. Or like something you could look at. Something that, and they shouldn't have power just because they were born into a royal family. Yeah.
Finance.
But
Luckily,
yeah, no,
he's very
I
rich.
agree with you with the monarchy, but it's like I wouldn't like them in place.
He earns good money. I think pretty much in the high six figures. But she was telling me when I was working with her, you know, every other year they have to pay these visa fees, and it's
I
1.5
believe that power should be in the hands of the people in the country and not in the selected few. The power should be in the working class and the government, and the working class should have the say on what happens.
to £2,000 per family member. So just do the maths. It's almost what, there's 5 of them, so about 10 grand. It's going to be completely unfeasible for some people. There are people here who are skilled workers, but of course they might be on 40, 50, 60 grand. You can't pay out 10 grand every year on top of the cost of living here, having 3 kids. So, skilled workers who we do actually need, we have shortages. People come here, share their skills. They help
Well,
grow
I'm
the
gonna
industry.
watch a thing with the guy who's running for. Would have the monarchy who'd live in the big fancy house? We would. That's right. We'd move in and we'd get ourselves paintings of ourselves up by the throne. We would have some tea there as well, of course. But that's the whole idea. The power would be in our hands. Down with the monarchy, in with us.
Here with their skills that we don't even have in this country. And do you think they're going to come here now if they have to pay these visa fees for an extra 5 years? It's just creating a more hostile
I think I'd look good on with the King's Crown. I'm gonna be honest.
environment. And Zoe Gardner, friend of the show,
I can see it.
If you don't follow her, please go and do. You'll see her on like BBC, LBC, being a big advocate for a more friendly, humane immigration system. She wrote an article today in LBC, an opinion piece.
By the way, Your Majesty, I'm joking. I live in England. I promise I'm joking. All right, this is a joke. I don't plan to come in and just like take your throne. Kidding. For legal purposes, I was joking. All right.
Basically saying everything that I just said about how
guys, if I'm not live tomorrow, you know what happened. The king came for me,
this is not going to help
grabbing me with his sausage fingers.
community. It's actually going to harm community because people are going to have to wait longer and be more insecure while they're here for a longer period of time. So how does that help build up the community in any way? We will move on to the next part of the story.
Forced military
very quickly, 'cause I want
conscription.
to make sure that we cover
Well, I'm anti-war. I believe that peace deals should be made before people get blown up and shot. So I don't see about the what do you call it? Military subscription. I don't think conscription, sorry. I don't think that would happen under a left-wing party. Like, that wouldn't be a thing. Like, the Greens are pretty much against like military and stuff like that. So I don't think it would be a thing.
everything. We have a poll related to this, which was released today by British Future, showing that when you add a little nuance to the numbers game, and when it comes to immigration, there is actually wide support for immigration in lots of different ways. So most people
Arrested for allegedly looking fabulous in royal headwear.
choose not to reduce migration of people coming to the UK for a wide range of jobs, from doctors at 77% of people, and care home workers at 71%, to fruit pickers at 70%, and catering staff at 63%, lorry drivers at 63%. And
Yeah,
engineers
the
at
Greens are against
65%. And
military
along with that, 2/3,
action and stuff
65%
like
of
that.
people who participated say they would not reduce the number of students coming to the UK.
There's one thing they wanted to do as well, which I'm not a fan of, to be honest with you, because I believe in this current setting and this day and age, the Greens want to get rid of, I believe it's called Trident, which is like the nuclear weapons that we have. Unless everybody gets rid of nukes in the entirety of the world, then if we get rid of our nukes and they still have their nukes, then we're in deep shit because we can't do anything. They can basically come up to the country and be like, this is ours now. Let's just say, I don't know, big bad Russia, for example, would just be like, England, we want your country and you can't do shit about it because you can't defend yourself. The biggest defense right now is atomic weapons that we have. So that's one thing I don't agree with the Greens. The current guy, Zach, who is running for Green leadership, came out, I want to say a day or two ago, and said he wants to actually leave NATO. Because as this person who's running for like leadership in the Green Party, I don't know if he is or if he isn't, but the way he comes across is someone who is like a socialist, because like we're pretty much against NATO. It's a power that really shouldn't be a thing. I mean, it was founded by Nazis. Let's be honest. If you look at NATO, it was an anti-communist, socialist military set up to deter the Soviet Union back when it was in like, I think it was after World War II. They formed like NATO just to stop the advance of the Soviets. And the things that the people they put in charge of NATO to stop the Soviets were the like death squads and like just the SS highest ranking Nazis you could possibly find, and they put them in charge of NATO. And then
And people who voted Labour in 2024 are less inclined to support reductions, with 55% preferring overall immigration numbers to stay the same or increase. So, you know, British Future put together this poll, very good and very timely for today. So thank you to them. And I just think it's also worth pointing out, as the Telegraph did, and sorry, I've just, I didn't put the graphic up for this, but I will read it out. But this is from the Telegraph, just reminding us what Keir Starmer said just 5 years ago. So Keir Starmer joined dozens of Labour MPs campaigning against the deportation of about 50 foreign criminals to Jamaica. When he ran for the Labour leadership, he demanded free movement after Brexit, as well as full voting rights for EU nationals. And he used his maiden speech in Parliament to raise concerns about a Tory attempt to stop dangerous foreign
Keir Starmer is a 100% a good what is the word I'm looking for? A good reason why you shouldn't trust a politician with so much power. Because he's going to show a clip now, so he said, about like Keir Starmer saying like stuff against being like anti-immigration. He was also like one of Jeremy Corbyn's right-hand men. Keir Starmer was. And now he's like this person who you just wouldn't really want in charge of the country. I genuinely believe Western countries leadership want to push for close. They stay in power forever. Yeah.
Criminals
I mean, look at America right now. They're talking about actually making the voters who like voted for Trump are actually thinking about making him a king. That's how insane they are. They're basically like full swing into fascism right now. Yeah, they definitely want to see China and Russia gone. 100%.
Human rights laws to avoid deportation. So I took that out of the Telegraph today just to kind of emphasize how far Keir Starmer has come. And it's not one of these like moments where it's like, oh, you said this thing 5 years ago, it's a gotcha. I just think it's an incredibly important measure to say how far somebody's come, because I'm not one of these people who expect my politicians to have said something 10 years ago and they have to, never ever change their mind. That their mind can change, their opinion can develop, and we can have honest conversations about that. But I think it's a very, very stark and dangerous contrast to, where he said he was, just like when he ran for the Labour leadership and made all these.
I lived in Germany for 5 years. Very nice country.
Wonderful, very
so good
left-leaning promises, and as soon as he got the power, he purged the left of the party, moved to the right.
Deutschland ist schön. Where were we? Over here, Jimmy the Giant. This is the video I've already watched. I'll take it back to where they first start talking. Actually, let's go here. So this is Zach, the guy who's like running for leadership of the Green Party. And today he did an interview with Jimmy the Giant. And this is the interview. It's 2 hours long. I don't know if we'll make it through the whole thing, but we'll see.
I care about all of those things. I've not come on your stream to like slate trees and polar bears, but also like there's no environmental justice without social justice. And what do I mean by that? I mean, like, if people are worrying about putting food on the table, worrying about heating their homes, how they're going to get to work if they've even got a job, then they cannot start caring about the climate crisis because they care about the immediate things in front of them. So what I've always been looking to do with the Green Party is make it clear to people that, one, we've got to deal with those immediate material conditions, as it's called, so basically money, and two, link how the climate crisis is going to screw those poorest people over more than anything else.
I wouldn't say
causing the climate crisis. So
they have that power to do that. If the public is really behind a party, the majority of the country is voting for the party that's won, and they win, then the monarchy would have to respect that, because if they do not respect it, it becomes a case of like throwing the vote of the public away. And you can't do that because that would cause an uproar, a complete uproar in which would actually be good in terms of for me and you, because we're like we don't really care about the monarchy. You would have the French Revolution where they like overthrew the what British style.
So no matter what angle you're coming from, this is about 99%, all of us, against a very small group of people who are destroying the planet, destroying our communities, and destroying both the working class and independent shops, people running business.
Like the monarchy have to respect.
If we come all together and build a movement,
the vote of the people.
Yeah, it's funny.
Even though they have the power to pick and choose like politicians and stuff like that, they have to respect the vote.
I don't know how aware you are of what I do. I think because I feel
unless the politician is openly being like what do you call it? asking for death of the monarchy, which no politician has ever done that. UK think monarchs would nominate Andrew Tate if he wins majority votes.
And I obviously like.
I mean, the thing with Andrew Tate would be if he actually, God forbid, if he actually did run for like a position in politics. I don't think he has the brains for it, to be honest with you, but if he actually did, I think he would get pretty fat just because he would have the big billionaires backing him, because billionaires love to back right-wing, radical, insane people. I think he would actually like make a decent gains in it, especially to the younger like male audience. I imagine he would get somewhere.
I guess people know is that I came from the right, and when I was on the right, I was never like anti-climate, like climate, because it wasn't even a big talking point on the right back then. It was kind of like just this other issue that no one's really talking about. I never had too big of a thought about it. But when I was sort of starting to move over to the left, one of the things that really changed my mind was
really struggling to hear him.
That the economic argument of it, like the economic argument to move toward green, and the sovereignty argument of it. And this is the sort of thing I try and push, is like I kind of get what makes people lean to the right. So like,
yeah, I watched the video. He was held in an interrogation room for 2 hours. I don't know why that's come up on my stream, why it says hi. I have no idea why it says hi there. But yeah, he was held in an interrogation room for 2 hours. Vosh did a thing on this. Let me see, can I find it in my history? Should be here somewhere. People are gonna go actually nuts because of this. Oh, this is him talking about it.
Where do I begin? Our story begins at Paris's premiere,
which is nuts, by the way, that he actually got like interrogated for 2 hours just because of his political views. This is how far America... Well, we know America's gone crazy right now because they're just throwing people in vans and then arresting them and shipping them across the world. But like to actually interrogate someone for 2 hours just because they have a different political view is insane.
National Airport, Charles de Gaulle. Okay? Now, normally I'm an experienced traveler, as some of you may know. I'm somewhat of an experienced traveler, and usually as an experienced traveler, I like to get to the Charles de Gaulle Airport early because I know, no disrespect to France, I love the country, but Charles de Gaulle Airport is one of the worst in Europe. It's a major hub, but unfortunately, due to, I think, like a lack of interest from the managers of any of these companies, where they just refuse to hire additional people. And I feel like in France, you just have to always hire more people because everyone is doing work very slowly. Okay? It's just the pace that you have to adjust to, and therefore you have to hire more people. There's always like work stoppages and stuff like that. And these guys, the unions are relatively powerful, but the corporate overlords will literally punish travelers instead of meeting the actual demands of labor unions there. So I've been in a situation where I've been like stuck in France and stuff. Like I had to do crazy maneuvering to get out. So I knew that. And because I knew that, I was like, I'll go 3 hours early. It's something that I never do. Usually I'm actually very slow. But this time I was like, I'll go 3 hours early.
All right, we don't really need
lady with a lot of bags.
Need to know this.
All right, I'm freaking going in. It's who knows how long this will take? Who knows what will happen? And they're like, here, you can leave. Okay? So that's one thing, right? Like I've had secondary searches and stuff done to me before. I've had the I think it's called the quadruple S. Like they put the SSSS on your boarding pass, and you always get checked randomly when you get hit with that. Like that's happened to me a lot in the past. Like detained, they were right. It was an insane.
Where is
There
it?
was also a seat for like a lawyer. So I sat down on the lawyer seat on the corner to establish dominance because I've watched too many JCS interrogation videos and I knew I had to have command over the room. So I didn't sit in the cuck chair. Instead, I sat in the lawyer chair.
In the cuck
and we
chair.
got to talking. And let me tell you, folks, the TikTokers that talked about being detained, they were right. It was an insane situation. So it's very obvious that they knew exactly who the fuck I was. It's very obvious that they knew how to like navigate
that's the crazy thing that they actually. That's the crazy thing. They actually knew who he was. So he's 100% on a watch list. Hassan has expressed support for terror entities in the States. Yeah, also terrorists though. It's if you like watch his streams, which I do, you'll see his point and his like where he's coming from and his standing point. Like he talks like about how Palestinians would like join Hamas because they've seen like their families just blown apart from them and like buried in rubble in buildings. So it's you can see his arguments and stuff like that.
Conversation and it was a
and I would say he's right on his like most of his like points that he stands on when he talks about these topics, like really sensitive topics, because he is well informed and he does know what he's talking about.
Really interesting conversation that took place. It was very cordial. Okay, it was very cordial, which I noticed. I thought it was strange.
Which is one of the thing, well, like some of the things that he does talk about in this video. And like when they are interrogating him, they ask him like questions about like Hamas and the Houthis and stuff like that, and if he's like supporting them and stuff like that.
Cordial it was, because I've had run-ins with like cops in the past. I've had run-ins with feds in the past. Well, I guess the FBI was very cordial as well when I had some talks with them in the past. But overall, I was not expecting CBP agents to be cordial. I will say that. Okay. Now, having said that, the entire process is supposed to be intimidating. So it's like suck my dick, cordial or whatever. Okay. I think they were being cordial because they wanted me to say something that was incriminating and say something that was enough to justify further detention from that point on. And let me tell you, they certainly did do that. So he knew exactly who the fuck I was, but he was basically like broaching the conversation in a way where it was like free flowing, where in the process of discovery, he was adding on additional talking points. He always made it seem as though he was asking certain things that after discovering in the process of that conversation, he would ask additional questions. So, you know, he's like, oh, what are you doing in Chicago? And I was very revealing. I was like, well, I was in France because I want to take my family out for Mother's Day to France, but I had to come back early from France, even though today is technically Mother's Day, because I have a speaking engagement at University of Chicago. And he was like, oh, what kind of speaking engagement? It's like, I don't know, some like journalism school stuff. And he's like, oh, well, since you mentioned that, he kept saying, oh, well, since you mentioned that, what do you do as a job? And I was like, I'm a Twitch streamer. And he's like, well, since you mentioned that you were a Twitch streamer, what kind of things do you
That's the crazy thing. Like he was like, this guy knows who Hassan is, who's like interrogating him. This is the crazy thing. And he's just trying to like get Hassan to like admit things. It's like crazy.
And at first I was like, do I just tell him I play video games? Because I don't think this motherfucker to believe me if I say I just play video games to him, right? So I was just like, yeah, I play video games, but I also do current events sometimes, drama, internet. And he's like, oh, do you talk about, since you mentioned that, you talk about...
No, they definitely don't have, like, from the get-go, when October the 7th happened, and before that, Hamas never stood a chance against Israel. Israel's backed by America, England, and like other countries that just send Israel like weapons and support. Like Hamas, the Houthis, and whatever other terrorist organization, whatever you want to call them, whatever regime that is like fighting Israel, does not stand a chance. Like, Israel is funded by one of the global powers in the world, and defended by one of the global powers in the world. Like, the Houthis and Hamas are funded by what? Iran? And they don't have the equipment to do something.
The things that you talk about, do you talk about the news? And I was like, yeah, I talk about the news. And he kept saying, okay, so when you talk about the news, do you talk about the war? And I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, do you talk about Trump? And that was the first time where I was like,
but
what the f is
this? The thing is, what you have to realize with Hamas, and I have to be careful here with what I'm saying because I'm on the internet. The thing you have to be you have to acknowledge with Hamas is when the Palestinians were doing their election, when the Palestinians were having their elections, they were having like, I think it was like there was like a main Palestinian government, and then the other choice was Hamas. Now, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but like the Israeli government, knowing full well that Hamas would cause like a dysfunctional like government, like it would take things in the wrong direction, Israel actually funded Hamas. And you can go look this up, it's in the Israel Times, and there's actual videos of Netanyahu saying that if a Palestinian state run by a Palestinian like government comes into power, then the status quo will not be equal anymore. Like they will have like a peaceful state, the Palestinians would, and they would be able to govern themselves and therefore like sort themselves out in a proper way. But the Israeli government had different ideas. They funded Hamas to cause like problems in there. Are you jealous of BB's jawline? He is handsome, man. But yeah, like Israel did fund Hamas to cause like problems in Gaza and in Palestine, to make it so that the Palestinians could not get a proper government set up. And like I said, you can go study this and read about it and actually watch stuff on it. It's interesting. It's the same deal with like America, well, the CIA, which is basically America, let's be honest, who funded ISIS. You fund the terrorist group to cause problems into the society and to radicalize people. So that's basically what happens. No, basically what happened to Hassan, well, he's talking about it now. I'll let the video play, but he got detained for coming back into America, and they interrogated him because of his views on like Palestine, Trump, and like America in general, and world politics. So he's He's 100% on the government watch list, which is hilarious, by the way.
Question, like, I literally straight up told him, I was like, why are you asking me this? Like, I was like, what does this have to do with anything? And it was interesting because they, like, the dude asked so many insane questions, none of which is illegal, by the way. I just need you to understand, nothing I have done thus far is illegal, as in nothing I've done online is illegal as of now, if that makes sense. Now, laws may change in the future, and
which they will, by the way, in the current direction. In the current direction America is going, free speech is going to be clamped down on, and what the government considers radical speech will be the well, he's referencing his like takes on Hamas and the Houthis, and about like, because America considers them a terrorist organization. Like, America, that's what they have them registered as. So if the law changes on free speech, they have all this audio and video evidence of Hassan saying things, so they can just straight up clamp down on him and arrest him. That's literally what he's saying right now. If it changes, it's gonna be, like I said, which it is looking like it's gonna change. It's gonna be his ass that's gonna be like thrown in a cell. Oh, I don't know what they'll do with him. Maybe they'll deport him to like Libya, what they plan to do with everybody else.
Might actually start prosecuting speech, which I do fear is the goal of this administration. But so far, everything I've done is fully protected under the First Amendment. Okay? And none of these questions are actually valid questions to ask. But I was entertaining it because I didn't want to present it as being difficult, because I didn't want to extend the tension.
I mean, if you look at some of the videos that are coming out of the US, like where they're throwing people in vans and stuff like that, ICE is doing, and you look at the pro-Palestinian protests that are happening in America, and they're being arrested, and they're labeling the pro-Palestinian protesters as pro-Hamas protesters, but they're not pro-Hamas protesters, they're pro-Palestinian. So they're like changing the narrative in a way that works for them, and that's simply what they can do with him. And once they get that law changed so it like works in their favor, he will 100% be in the shit.
I actually wanted to see how far I could take it. Maybe it was up of me to do that. Maybe it was not appropriate for me to do that, to play fast and loose with a person that has complete control over my life in that very moment. But I wanted to see like what they were trying to get away, like what they were trying to take from this conversation. And so, you know, instead of just pleading the fifth, as I'm supposed to do in situations like this, I just kept giving him answers. And there were definitely areas where I was very revealing about my position, knowing full well that they know exactly what they're looking for. I saw no reason to hold back on certain things. So I said, I don't like Trump. And I was like, what are you going to do? It's protected by the First Amendment. I don't like Trump. Yes. Right? Like, I was like, I'm not fond of him. I don't like him. He said he was going to end the wars. He hasn't ended the wars. What the fuck is up with that? You know? And the guy actually was very sympathetic. The agent was very sympathetic. And I don't know if it was like a JCS style interrogation technique to come across as sympathetic, to like invoke some kind of positive feelings out of me in an effort to like get me to reveal something maybe that'll trip me up, or because he just genuinely was sympathetic and he had the vibes of someone who was like, I don't know why I'm doing this, right? But he was like, listen, I'm Iraqi, so I know. And let me tell you, I do think that him being Iraqi played a big role in this, because if he wasn't, there was a lot of editor-ass white boys that are at
Oh,
Customs and
100%.
Border Patrol at O'Hare Airport. I saw them walk by. There was a dude who looked like he was like 25 max, but he was balding, and I knew immediately if that my agent, I'm screwed. I'm going to CCOP. This dude is going to literally cook me. So I got a little lucky.
Fuck.
I got a little lucky. All right, I will admit. So basically, I think the reason why they sent the Iraqi CBP agent is because they bracket you into different categories. For me, they wanted to conduct an investigation about my involvement with Hamas and my involvement with the Houthis and they suspected my involvement with Hezbollah. Straight up. That's literally what this conversation was about. And it's not even a joke. Like they straight up tried to get something out of me.
Yeah, like
that I think they.
That's what he said. He said like countless times on his streams, that like the Houthis and Hamas are a resistance group, which in some ways you can make that argument. But it's like, the thing is, it's the countries who have the power are the ones that class these resistance groups as terrorist because it works for them. In my eyes, Israel is now I have to be careful when I'm saying this. Israel is a terrorist actual country, because if you look at what Israel has done, blowing up pages, bombing civilians, bombing hospitals, that is straight up terrorist shit. But because Israel is backed by the West, they aren't registered as terrorists because they have the Western backing. It's all about who is backing you and who's got the funding and the bigger guns. And Hamas and the Houthis do not have that power.
Used to basically detain me permanently, which is insane, because there is no direct connection or direct involvement. So I'll say this much.
And Iraq, yeah, like I like you could even make the argument that like England and America are like both terrorist countries because they have terrorized other countries. They have literally done the definition of terrorism and genocide, actually. Two genocidal countries. What am I saying? And colonialism. You know, it's just like, it's hypocritical and it's stupid, but this is the way it is. I don't know why my freaking thing keeps saying hi in the chat. I did not put that there again. I have to try and delete this. Give me a second. I gotta try and remove this shit. My chat is haunting me. There we go, removed. They justify terrorism because it's leading what the state. Yeah, you could make that argument because of what they did in Africa. You could make that argument. You could go as far as saying they're genocidal because of like the amount of people they killed. Yeah.
So we're talking. You know,
I was watching the history of like what happened in, I think it was like Pakistan and stuff like that, with when the English was in, when they were ruling India, and they decided to divide the two like groups. I think it was the Hindus, I want to say the Hindus and the Muslim population into like both different sides, and that just went to chaos.
Chicago. I'm going to be speaking there for the journalism school. I told him, like, you know, I don't like Donald Trump, and I was like, so
like everywhere England goes, they just, it's just horrible. Why do you think all capital? It's as simple as that. you've got shit in your country, we want that shit, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's like they went to Africa and just robbed them of their minerals, resources, and they're still doing that today, to be honest with you. Like, they just do it in a corporate way, where it scams the people of Africa. Religious nationalists, yeah.
Is doing this. And he's like, oh, it's just like routine. It's a routine process. I was like, it
But-
doesn't feel too routine.
Again, like I said, they were propped up. Hamas was propped up to, put in power by Israel to cause further division in Palestine. That's what you have to take into account. Israel knew Hamas was bad news, but because they knew they were bad news, they knew then if Hamas did something to Israel, then Israel would have a good excuse, as we're seeing now, to just blow up and destroy and level Gaza and like just get rid of, or just ethnically cleanse all the Palestinians, which is the current plan. So like they've committed the genocide and now they're going into Gaza just to like make sure the job is done.
And basically, my big fear from the entire situation was like, if they were to ask for my phone, not that there's anything incriminating in my phone, but I don't want the federal government inside of my phone beyond beyond all of the times where they probably have been engaging in like warrantless surveillance on my phone or whatever the fuck. I don't like, it's not your business. You know what I mean? It's none of your fucking business. So it's a goddamn free country. Like there's privacy laws for this kind of shit, right? So, for those of you who don't know, by the way, they can't actually unlock your phone, but if you have biometrics on your phone, they could technically use that and put the phone to your face and unlock it that way. Hold on, let me fix this. Let me fix the banner. So just so you know, they could technically do that, okay? They could technically do that, but there's a trick. Either you completely, either you get a burner phone when you're traveling internationally, or if you have your
I would
phone,
say Hamas thinks that.
you can just do a passcode.
But well, one is far worse than the other. Like Israel is by far the worse, like government in power there. But Hamas, I think, given the opportunity and if they had the backing, they would probably do the same as Israel. Just because the like conflict between these two powers it's just so like deeply embedded. It becomes like they just want to kill each other. This could have been settled a long time ago, but it was forced on them like this. I think the answer to that question, Weld, is each of these like governments or groups have something in mind which they want things to work their way. Like they want the power. It's the same in every country. They want to have that say over this other country. Yeah, and that's not to say like Western powers don't have that as well. It's like all sides have this kind of like tendency that they need to like be superior to this other class of people. I think like the only way it would be around this would be peace talks, but Israel has pushed it so far that I don't even think like peace talks or ceasefires or negotiations would like fix this. Because how do you as a Palestinian person say, okay, all is forgotten after like what's happened to them? Like, you're gonna be fucking radicalized. You're gonna hate the country that's done this to you. Yeah. Like, it's to the point now where it's just like, it's just gonna be a grudge held through generation to generation to generation. And this is all because of like the Israeli government's actions. I say Israeli government because I don't think the people of Israel, like the Jewish people who live in Israel, have this in mind.
Either canceling biometrics, or if you forgot to do so, if you forgot to cancel biometrics like your Face ID, what you can do is click it 5 times. If you click hold 5 times in a row, it will actually
it's like the same in the other countries, like Iran, stuff like that. You will have the groups of people who just want to live in peace and see their country like prosper and do well. But then again, you have those like nationalist leaders, like we're talking about now, who want to see other countries just like under their control. They want their resources, and that's been the game since God knows how long. It's like it's always been the case. It's capitalism in a way. You exploit the land around you, and you like exploit the people around you for your own gain. And to suppress it by default, Hamas wants people to be free from Israel, not to be free from oppressive systems. Yeah. I mean, the thing that's happening right now in the Middle East, and you can trace it back to Western powers. It's a product of colonialism and the Western Empire that is no longer there. If you were Iranian, would you be able to go on stream to talk criticism to things you didn't agree with? No, you wouldn't. I don't think you would be able to go on like Twitch or YouTube and stream your opinions out in the open like that. That's what's so great about like living in the West and England and stuff like that. Some Western countries will shut you down. One in particular, the one I was living in, Germany. If you were even like pro-Palestinian, they would have your ass. Like, they literally arrest pro-Palestinian protesters on the street. That's an example of like free speech being shut down. But I don't believe Iranians have like free speech in their country because of their authoritarian government. I mean, we saw with what was it that was happening in Iran not too long ago? It was like the women rejecting like their head coverings. It's because if you look at the... Oh my god. I think it's... Let me see, can I find this? So I think this is the country, like Germany. They have in their like I want to say constitution because I'm not keyed in. I'm pretty dumb on it. But Germany has written into their law that they must not criticize Israel and like stand by Israel because of like the Holocaust and stuff like that. It's the reason of state. The modern German Republic, which it for generations has tried to make amends for its Nazi past and its role in the Holocaust during the Second World War, has long made Israel's security reason of state. Like, it's actually written into it, I believe. Even though, like, the genocide is clearly there.
Will actually disable Face ID, and it will force you to put your passcode in. And because they're,
I mean, like I referenced earlier with the Nazis and stuff, when NATO was created, it was run by Nazis. The Nazis didn't go away. I'm not saying Germany is full of Nazis. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it works in their favor like the power does. And because of like the past crimes of the Holocaust, what Germany did, they have to support Israel now.
there are laws against like the agents not being able to force you to put your passcode in, they can't actually.
I hope I'm getting that right.
Access your phone
because
like
I'm pretty shoddy on my
there's
information.
Different methods of how they can access your phone. From what I understand, they can also put it on a computer and just like plug it into a machine, and the machine just basically takes all of the information in your phone. So it is what it is. I don't know if you can actually do that if your phone is on, but I was thinking about all these things. I had already unlocked the biometrics, like I disallowed biometrics, and it's a Faraday cage once you get into the detention center anyway, so you can't actually send any text messages once you're in there. It's there's no access to the internet. But I'm sitting there and they're asking me about Trump. They're asking me about like Hamas, and he kept saying stuff. He kept saying stuff like, "Do you like Hamas? Like, do you support Hamas? Do you think Hamas is a resistance group? Do you think Hamas is a terrorist group or a resistance group?" Like, he just kept asking over and over again, right? And I kept repeating the same statement over and over again. I kept saying, I kept saying a couple different things. One, in terms of like Israel and all the wars, I was like, I'm on the side of civilians. I want the endless bloodshed to end. I am a pacifist. I want wars to end. I just kept repeating that over and over again. Every single time
he asked me
a question, I just kept repeating that. And every single time he asked me a question, a leading question about Hamas, I kept saying, The United States State Department recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization. The United States State Department recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization. So,
because if he would have said the
he just
opposite,
kept
it would have been
asking
really
me
bad
over
for
and
him.
over again, like Hamas, Houthis, all this trying to be like, oh, do you support them? Do you like them? Like, what do you think about them? Which I thought was insane, because the reality of the matter is, okay, up until this very moment, if you were to say, as an American citizen, you stand 10 toes down with Hamas, or you stand 10 toes down with the Houthis, or whatever they can't deny you entry into the country for that shit. But I don't know what the they're trying to do. So I was like, I'm not going to go beyond it. I'm not going to go beyond just like reiterating over and over again. The American government's position is that Hamas is a terrorist organization. But then he just kept asking me about the Houthis. And at that point, I was like, listen, he's like, well, do you agree with the terrorist designation for the Houthis? And I said, I'm of the Brookings Institute mindset that in 2020, when Donald Trump initially...
I mean, it's at the end of the day, they're still putting Nazis in command of groups to go around and kill Soviets. That's the issue what I'm talking about. Like, when NATO was created, and it was the same with, like, they were skilled, yes, no doubt about it. They were skilled at what they were doing, but it's like it's still not the correct thing to do. Soviets took in Nazis too? Yeah, they did. But like, the NATO was designed to tackle the Soviet expanse. And the way America did this was by employing using Nazis and their death squads to go after the Soviets. And they did kill a lot. These Nazi death squads did. Or SS death squads, whatever you want to call them.
Designated the Houthis as a terror organization. That was a major mistake. I talk about these issues from an academic context with humanitarian rights organizations and with academics and with journalists. As a matter of fact, this is perfectly this is, you know, completely protected under First Amendment laws, and therefore
that's the crazy thing, that they like put him in the 2 hour when they detained him. That's the crazy thing. It's like the First Amendment, from what he's saying. I have no idea what the First Amendment says, but there is free speech written in there, and that is free speech. What he's saying, whatever he's saying on stream, is free speech, unless he's not openly endorsing or supplying military aid to a terrorist organization. Then yeah.
And what the reason why we're having this conversation is, I kept saying that over and over
I shouldn't
again,
laugh at that.
At which point he just like kind of gave up. But what I thought was really interesting,
I shouldn't laugh at that one.
And I even followed it up with like, I do call balls. I call balls and strikes, and there are things that Trump has done that I actually agree with, and I'm not shy about saying
the crazy thing now. If you want to watch Germany, and it's a slow move to the right, there's the party which is in Germany now called the AfD, Alternative for Deutschland, and they're like a neo-Nazi fascist party, which is gaining more and more popularity, which is crazy.
Even though initially he said he was going to end all these wars, he hasn't done so. I think these wars are unnecessary, they're costly, and a lot of civilians die in the process. I don't think it's appropriate.
And I know a few of them in Germany have been taken off the actual out of their political seats, because some of them have Holocaust deniers. And if you're a Holocaust denier in Germany, you can actually land in prison for that. Like, just saying you denied the Holocaust, or it didn't exist, or didn't happen, you would be arrested in Germany. Rightfully so, but still it's free speech. Like, over here we have Nazis out in the open in England. Like, they have like the tattoos and everything, but we still don't arrest them. It's crazy. The mainstream political parties who are pro-Nazis and pro-genocide denial. Yeah. Supported Ukrainian state, yeah.
Very inappropriate.
Ukraine has also has like a huge issue with Nazis as well. Was anti-Nazi in World War II. Did you see the clip? It was in Canada. When I want to say the what was his name? Oh my God, Justin Trudeau and Zelensky were actually clapping for an ex-Nazi, like an actual commander. They were giving him applause. Yay, he fought against the Soviets. It's like, doesn't that ring any alarm bells that he fought against the Soviets? It's like, what are you doing? I remember watching that. I was just thinking, wait, what? When they said he fought against the Soviets? It's like, which side were you on, brother? Like, fought against the Soviets. The only side that fought against the Soviets in World War II were Nazis. So, in Europe anyway.
And it must end, right? Like that's my position. But I do think
that was insane,
Trump did a good
actually
thing where
insane.
he implemented a ceasefire with the Houthis. So when he does stuff like that, when I agree with him, I tell him what's what. Like I say it. When I agree with Trump in a decision, I'm open about it, right? So I explained that to him, and I just yapped away over and over and over again. And what I found to be particularly interesting was in the first half of the conversation, it was just like basically a fact-finding mission, right? Try to get me to say something that I think would be of interest. In the second part of the conversation, there were some real actionable items that he presented that depending on how I answer those questions, like I'm going to jail. Because the first stuff was just illegal for him to ask me those questions and completely
yeah, I think like a bunch of Nazis like fled to Canada. If I remember hearing like about it correctly and reading about it correctly. Like it was like a safe state for them. Yeah, they're like everywhere. Like I believe they should be prosecuted for what they did. Like there's actually a thing, Nazi hunters, where they just like hunt them down and actually take legal action against them, which rightfully they should. If you were in that army at the time and considered and like joined the Nazis, you deserve to be prosecuted and locked up. Simple as that.
Like completely idiotic and ridiculous, and I think they did it because they know who the fuck I am, and they wanted to put the fear of God into me, not knowing that I'm a stubborn piece of shit and that's not going to work at all, right? The second half of the conversation was actually like, because he left, went away for like 35 minutes, came back, and then he asked like actionable items. But one thing that I will take note of that I thought was very interesting was the fact that a lot of the shit that like the Ethan Kleins of the world have like cried about over and over again were unironically brought up in that conversation.
That's crazy that other YouTubers are like, other Twitch streamers as well, are like having an effect on like free speech and stuff like that, and affecting Hassan's life in this way. That's actually crazy. That the talks and stuff he's had with like other streamers and the way they've talked about him has landed him in this type of like situation.
I was shocked Okay, not like the bleach sword, obviously, but like the Houthi. Like, did you interview a Houthi? It says
Because it's a suppression of, like, they're trying to suppress free speech. That's what they're trying to do, and shut him down, get him cancelled.
here that you interviewed a Houthi, and I was like, or was he actually a Houthi? And I was like, he's not. You can look to all of the reporting that came out afterwards and before I interviewed him that he is not a Houthi, that he is a regular Yemeni citizen. And I said, like, his name is Rashid al-Haddad. He is not even a Shia. And the dude, luckily, again, Iraqi, went, oh yeah, that's right. That's a Sunni last name. Al-Haddad is a Sunni last name. So he must not have been a Houthi.
He got
And-
so lucky that the guy was Iraqi. Like, if that was, like, your average American, his ass would have been fried. Crazy.
The very fact that that was like a point of contention that could have gotten me arrested is insane. And I genuinely, in that moment, was thinking, like, these dumbass slop tubers are actually playing with fire.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I even thought about not even mentioning this because I was like, I don't want to give him any sort of like power over the situation. But like, the reality of the matter is 100% the Trump administration is inadvertently working with a lot of these dipshits. These dipshits are playing a formative role in getting people in trouble with the law. Okay? That is literally the case. It was shocking that that was the case, but it is the case. And it's actually very frustrating that it is the case, that this administration doesn't care. That's why they work with Beitar. That's why they work with all these other insane groups. The Barry Weisses of the world actually have motion in this goddamn admin. Okay? So, they're cheering this on over at eSub. Yeah, I know. They can suck my dick. Liberals, by the way, cheering on one of the largest progressive voices in the country getting detained by the Trump Gestapo. Like, what a wonderful progressive audience they have over there.
And then they'll, like, Chip, the people he's talking about, they'll go off on one and, like, saying that, like, oh, the woke are, like, trying to do cancel culture and stuff like that. And they're literally doing the same thing. Fucking hypocrites.
Anyway, they're straight up fascist at this point. So my point is, it's crazy that, like, these were actual questions. Like, they asked me about my Twitch bans. Okay.
What?
And I talked about blowback. I talked about how, I said America deserved 9/11 and it was misconstrued. I do have sometimes I use hyperbolic language and it gets taken out of context or whatever. And he agreed with the blowback sentiment in terms of, like, the 9/11 stuff. You're dumb. Yeah, no, I told him that. I was like, yeah, they asked me about my Twitch bans, chat. It's not even a joke. They asked me about Twitch chat, like Twitch bans, not Twitch chat, but Twitch bans.
Like, how would like your regular person, or, well, your regular guy working at the airport who, like, interviews people know all this if it wasn't reported and made it, like, a subject? Like, it's crazy that the investigation went this deep into, like, his career.
The other Twitch ban he asked me about was the last one that I got banned, and I explained to him like, this is man, you really talk way too much. Lawyer will be pretty upset at you, dude. What are you talking about? I know that under normal circumstances I'm supposed to say I want a lawyer. I don't want to talk to you. But nothing I'm doing is illegal, and I also wanted to see what would happen. Do you understand? I wanted to see what would happen. I wanted to actually see this experience, which is why instead of immediately lawyering up, I was like, no, I'm gonna entertain this. I'm gonna see what they actually are trying to get out of this. And I'm glad I did this because the reality of the matter is, one, I'm profoundly privileged. Okay, remember, I'm a public person, and also I have enough money to be able to fight back against this sort of thing. And they know who the I am. So obviously, the reason for why they're doing that is, I think, to try to create an environment of fear, to try to get people like myself or at least like others that would be in my shoes that don't have that same level of security to shut the up. And for me, I'm going to use the privilege that I have in that moment to try and see what the they're doing. Okay. Because every single thing that they ask me, trying to get me to say something like, oh, I support Hamas or whatever, is literally not allowed. Like, they are not, what the do you mean? Like, why is this denying me entry into the country of my birth? Like, this is my birthright. I'm an American citizen. You can't just stop me at the border and be like, what's your opinion on Donald Trump? You're not allowed to enter the nation. Like, that's bullshit. So, that was the first half. Like I said, they asked about the Twitch bans. They asked about like the Rick Scott statement, and I was like, listen, I don't. I laughed. I was like, I'm not calling for the assassination of a sitting senator. That'd be insane. But instead, I explained to him, like, I was talking about the hypocrisy of the Republicans, blah blah blah. I explained away all that shit, and he was understanding. Then he went back and he came back, and the actionable items that came up afterwards was basically asking me about if I had ever been in contact with Hamas, if I'd ever been in contact with the Houthis, directly or indirectly, if I'd ever actually been in contact with Hezbollah, if I'd actually ever offered financial support or logistics or any kind of support to Hamas, Hezbollah, or Houthis. They straight up asked me that. I laughed. I said, no, of course not. But yeah, that was, once again, these are questions that they're asking. But one thing that I thought was really interesting was in the actionable side of things, they also asked, have you ever interviewed a member of Hamas? Have you ever had a communication or correspondence with a member of Hamas, Hezbollah, or the Houthis? Now, what's really insane about that is that as someone who works in media, sometimes I do actually do journalism, right? As I've maintained this position over and over again. And I said that I would, if given the opportunity, talk to someone that is a part of the Ansar Allah movement, a Houthi, or even Hamas, or even Hezbollah, right? I think that
they do it like on Sky News and the BBC, like all the time. They'll talk to like, or like have things where they get like messages and stuff from them, from like groups and stuff like that. So I don't see why this would be like a contentious point.
Have the right to do so. And what was interesting, you don't do journalism, you grift. I know, Chatter. That's why the federal government is trying to arrest me. Yes, because I'm grifting too hard. That's what it is. Thank you. Yes, your dumbass slop tuber is correct. I'm grifting. So what's interesting, asking that is a violation of prior restraint. So that part, like, those are the questions that are like actionable, right? Like, those are the ones that if you say, how do you even classify a member of Hamas? It's not like even Hamas issues passports. Yeah, it's ridiculous, right? But that is the part where they were like, if you answer yes to any of that, that's when, you know, there's like actually illegal stuff in there. Having said that, there is one part of it that wasn't illegal, which is being in communications or being in contact with someone at Hamas. Like, that is a part of journalism.
Yes, journalism.
You actually can do. It's ridiculous. Like, you can interview ISIS. Like, what are we talking about? The notion that this would be an issue for the Customs and Border Patrol is ridiculous. Okay. I mean, Donald Trump is in contact with Hamas. He had
That's true.
directly talked to Hamas a couple months prior. He's in direct contact with the Houthis. Like, what are you talking about?
That's true.
And
He said they talked to the Houthis and they agreed to step down. It was like
it was drop site. Like, the idea that this will deny you entry into the country is bullshit. Like, what are we talking about? What do you mean? Like, what kind of insane double standard is there, right? And so that part was frustrating. And the interview interrogation, whatever you want to call it, that basically ended with me asking, like, so what is the purpose of this? Like, am I being detained? And because I was like, you know that I'm going to talk about this. I was like, a lot of people have talked about this, like, detainment structure. And he was like, yeah, people really exaggerate The people really exaggerate how these things go, and I was like, well, it is not a great situation to be in, you know? Like, what do you mean? And yeah, he was like, yeah, there's been a lot of reporting on you know, the conditions and situations
Found
like
another
this in
US killer
detainment,
drone.
but you're not technically detained. I was like, so I can leave? Like, I was like,
I mean,
asked-
where was the drone flying? Was it over like the Houthis? I don't know what territory I want to say. Don't even know if they have territory or they're just like occupying stuff. Not really like keyed into that.
I'm like, I was like, am I detained? And he's like, no. And I was like, all right, so what's the purpose of this entire situation?
Yemeni
I can just walk
territory.
out right now. And basically, when I said that,
So the US was like overstretching themselves then with drones.
the interview ended. So I don't know if that was something that I should have said from the start. Am I being detained?
Oh, okay.
You know, what's the deal here?
Yeah, then that like ceasefire, or well, when Donald Trump said the Houthis will stop like attacking, then it's probably going to escalate again.
Basically, yeah, it was a illegal pretense. Like, well, that's your Fourth Amendment right? No, you don't have. Okay, chatters, I need you to understand something. So after I said, am I being detained or whatever, he was like, no, well, you know, he didn't like abruptly end it. He kept asking some questions, but it pretty much ended after that. And I don't know if that was like, I don't know if that's like the I got lucky there, because when I asked like, am I free to go, that kind of stopped the process a little bit. And I don't know if that's the reason why I didn't have them look through my phone, but I wasn't planning on letting them look through my phone anyway. That was my point. Like, there was a line where I was going to say, I'm done with this. Either arrest me or, you know, let me go. I don't know what the fuck is happening here. And I got detained. I didn't get detained. Yes, chatter. Yes. ICE agent.
Yeah, that's actually crazy, man, that happened to him. It's like, it shows where the West is going in terms of free speech and how you can talk. And yet we had JD Vance not too long ago talking about how like the UK is stopping free speech. It's nuts. Like, actually nuts.
Sort of seeing it from, there is the core argument of like, this is just what we should be doing in terms of like the planet.
Watch this last video. It's like 2 hours long. What time is it right now?
You got to try and like make
12.
extra reasons for people to buy in. So not only is it going to change your life, but it's also going to do this and this.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to stop here. I'll be live tomorrow though, because I have a day off work tomorrow. So I'll be live probably for the full day tomorrow. And may continue with this video. I'm not sure. It depends what's happening at the time. What we can just like talk about and discuss and like learn stuff from. Watch another vid from me. Link. Oh, you mean on stream? We'll see how it goes and what's, like I said, what's going on. Because like usually when I'm not streaming, I'm like interested in stuff. I mean, I'm interested in stuff when I'm not streaming, and I like look it up and like to learn about it. Short stream, yeah, 2 hours. It's like 12 o'clock, almost 1 o'clock. Like, I'm pretty tired at the minute because I started work at 7 in the morning and finished at 4. So, and it was a big day today. A lot of stuff had to happen today. God damn. Come to think about it. Jesus. Like, at work today, it was, I had to sort out the delivery. We had some new stock come in. And we have to set it up in, like, virtual merchandising as well. And, like, scan through all the delivery, which was 5 pallets worth. And then we got word that tomorrow the one of the like heads of the store is coming in from Denmark to do a look around the store with the district manager. So the deputy manager came to me and was like, we have to make sure everything looks spotless. So we were just running around all morning and all day, just trying to like fix everything up before like he came in tomorrow. And then we wouldn't get too much flack, but yeah. It was a big day today. A lot of work. But yeah. I'll be live tomorrow. Long stream tomorrow. Probably one of the longest I'll do. Hopefully tomorrow I can stream for like, we'll try and make it like 7 or like 10 hours. 10-hour stream. And we'll go from there. So a lot of things can be like seen. But anyway. Ta-da! I'm out of here. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.